with other products. Because remember that your project is bringing different products together to make one building or one project. Are we on YouTube now? Yeah. So when you want to develop your specifications, your first step is to gather information. You could gather information either from getting specific project requirement or from referencing material pertaining to the products. So when you talk about specific project requirement, that means you are getting the information from the drawing. The drawings or the schedules or the charts or the tables from those drawings. That's the first way you gather information. And you know, in design, we have languages other than written languages. So when you have a drawing and the drawing shows different types of lines, we know the line that depicts a door. We know the line that depicts a window. So we're gathering information already by reading that drawing. Now that drawing is not written in prose, it's written in diagrams and figures, but we understand it. It's a language we understand. So when you want to start developing your specification, the first thing is to gather information first from the drawing. And the second is to gather information from reference material pertaining to the products that you want to use, and also gather information on the construction methods applicable to those products. Have we been thrown out? Okay, we've been thrown back in. We're all dancing together today. So manufacturer's information, product data on the website, hard copies of data binders, manuals, catalogs, all these are sources of information. So if you pick, for example, tiles from a manufacturer, you want to make use of certain floor tiles as your floor finish. Sometimes you have the opportunity of having the catalog from the manufacturers of those tiles, where they could tell you where you could use those particular tiles, the areas you could use them, the areas you shouldn't use them, how you are expected to prepare the area before you install them, how you're expected to install them, and how you're expected to care and maintain them. So that's another way, that's one of the ways of gathering information. The second is that you must understand what you are specifying. Many manufacturers offer suggested proprietary or guide specifications to relieve the architect or the engineer from the task of researching and writing a particular specification section. So sometimes rather than go by first principle of doing the research yourself, if you are making use of a product from a reputable manufacturer, the manufacturer would have already given you the information on that product. And that normally comes in under technical information. Sometimes it comes in on the container of the product. Sometimes it comes added. You could go on the website and you may be able to download additional information about that product. Sometimes you have handbooks that the manufacturer releases from time to time on those products. So you must be able to understand what they are talking about. Now, these specifications must be reviewed carefully to determine whether they have biases or whether they accurately state the necessary information. I'll give you an instance. There was a time when there was a lot of competition in the market on types of roofs, and where manufacturers, roofing manufacturers, try to outdo each other by upplaying the advantages of their roofing sheet and downplaying and upplaying also the disadvantages of their competitors. So some manufacturers could promise you beyond what their products can deliver. You as the specifier should be knowledgeable enough to know the limitation of those specifications or of the information about those products. And some of this knowledge, excuse me, may come from experience on previous works done. So a waterproofing company claims that their product can last for 10 years, but you know from experience and you know from liaising with other professionals that the waterproofing membrane can last only for 5 years. So you will not take everything the manufacturer says as gospel truth. You must have done some of your own research yourself. And that's why you must understand what you're specifying. Sometimes it may not be the manufacturer's fault. Sometimes it may just be your own lack of understanding on the material at hand. You like a particular material, it looks nice. It doesn't mean that you can use it for that product, so you can use it for the item of work that you are planning to use it for. Excuse me.
Just give us a few minutes. The guest speaker is just trying to get herself back. She's experiencing some. Just give us some few minutes. We'll be right back after this time. Sorry. She has to put herself together again. Just give us a few minutes. Thank you. Well, so far, I think we're doing well, and we are getting a lot of insights so far. And you're taking your notes, duly taking your notes. So I think she's back on her seat. She's well adjusted, well seated. So we'll take it right back from where she stopped. Thank you very much. Architect Tiwalola Fadi, you have the floor.
Thank you. My apologies. So we stop at understanding what you're specifying. You must also do your market research. What is available in your environment? There's no point specifying certain materials that you will find out that you need to spend a fortune bringing into your environment, especially when you're on a budget. I give you an example. You love stone fences. Now it's very possible for you to have stone facing on your concrete walls. Now imagine if, because you love stone fences, you now want to use masonry for your fence, and that is stone for your fence. People who live in the north are familiar with areas where stone as a material is fully used as a fence. But we who live in Lagos, for example, where we have no rocks, we know that for us to use stone as a fence, we have to look for quarries where we can extract those stones. The closest quarry we have is, I think, in Abeokuta. So it's going to be an arm and a leg. It's a fortune to use stone as a fence. Now, I'm not talking of stone as a finish, but stone as a structural element. So you must understand you must do your market research. You must know where your products are coming from. It's not enough for you to say you like something and you want to use it on your building. You must know how affordable that particular product is and how easy it is to get it in your environment. You must also have a concise and a regularly updated directory or catalog for your manufacturers. I'll give you another instance. Up until 1999, 2000, asbestos was allowed in materials globally. Oh, sorry, in Nigeria. However, major asbestos companies or major companies, building materials companies that use asbestos as part of their building materials, discontinued the use of asbestos sometime in 2000, I think 2001 or thereabout. If you had a non-updated directory, you probably would still be looking for roofing sheets that had asbestos, not knowing that asbestos has been discontinued and has been banned by standard organizations globally. So you need to update your building materials directory and your handbook. Some building materials, some products are no more in use, are no more accessible. Maybe in the 80s, for the PVC tiles were the rage. Nowadays, nobody uses PVC tiles. If you had an outdated directory, you will be looking for a company that has even discontinued the manufacturing of certain building materials. So you as the architect, you as the specifier, must regularly update your directory and your catalog. Sometimes because the materials have been discontinued due to regulatory or due to coding directives. Sometimes it could be due to affordability. The rates at which the naira is to the dollar today, there will be some products that you could get in Nigeria maybe 18 to 24 months ago, and you find out that they're no more available because nobody can afford to buy them. So you as the specifier, regularly, you need to make sure that your catalog or your handbook on materials is upgraded. You must also have reference standards from trade associations. Now, trade associations could be, let me pick an instance, it could be paint. The tradesman could be the painter. The tradesman could also be a painting company that not only produces paint, but also installs quote and unquote paints, applies paints on your products. So you should know who is in the market to do what. All product selection decisions should be recorded. You as the architect must have direct awareness of the selections in the market. You must be systemic and progressive in compiling information, and this must begin in the early design stage. When you select products for construction, it's very much like selecting goods for any other purpose. The selection is based on evaluation of the products against specific criteria. Selected products must be coordinated amongst team members. So this is for people who are, when it's more than a one-man stock. Now, once your generic products are determined, each type must be investigated for possible sources. So what this is bringing to fore is that specification writing goes beyond you do a design and then you just type into a space ceramic floor tiles, or you just type in sliding window, or you just type in semi-solid core door. Specification writing goes way beyond that, because apart from specifying the product, you as the specifier must have an idea of how that product is going to be installed. Sometimes the installation process may already make your specification not compatible with your design. So the two go together, the product and the installation process. And you as a specifier must have enough information about the two. So factors to consider when you're evaluating a product. Number one, you must determine whether the product is appropriate for the product in all respects. It goes beyond aesthetics. It also talks about functionality. You must determine its physical limitations. You must determine compatibility with other products to be used. You must confirm that the product is readily available and to what extent it is warranted. You also want to confirm the product's life expectancy and its maintenance requirement. So you pick a product, you like the product. Is the product functional apart from the fact that you like it? Sometimes you have a client and your client will tell you that he wants a particular finish on the wall. And he tells you, because I just like it. He's not technical. You may know that that particular product or that particular finish will not work in that space. So it's now your responsibility as a specifier to look for an appropriate product that can give the client the aesthetical satisfaction, but something else that can fulfill the functional obligation in the space you want to put it in. You're talking also about the product's life expectancy. You know, I mentioned membranes that can be fixed for waterproofing. Think about the expectancy. There are some membranes that are meant to last for a cycle. Some membranes could last longer if the area was arid. Some membranes can last better if the area is elevated and kept away from moisture. So you must know the limitation of those products already. If you're in a place where if you like a particular floor finish, but the space within you want to apply the floor finish has acoustics problems, then you as the architect know that you cannot put these tiles or you cannot put this floor finish here because it's going to increase reverberation. It's going to worsen the acoustic element of that space. If you have an area where you have little children playing and you want to make the area look much bigger, if it were adults, we could have interior designers wanting to specify mirrors. But because you know you are working within an environment for children, mirrors will not work well because it is a risk to the children. So you must understand the limitations of the product. Then you must also know the manufacturer. So a lot of what I'm saying today is repetition. But that's because in every stage you move from one, as you get closer to start writing specifications, most of these points keep on coming up as a red flag over and over again. Now, because much of the information and advice regarding the product and its application must come from the manufacturer, you want to have a manufacturer who is reputable. Now, it's very common in our environment today where you have mushroom companies spring up, no internet, no website presence. They don't have standard organization numbers. Nobody knew where they were before. Maybe one chap just traveled and brought in some materials into the market. It's not been tried, it's not been tested. And you now decide you are the one who wants to use that as a
Apologize. We are having internet issues here. Kindly bear with us. We'll be back soon. Please.
Can you hear me?
Everybody's out.
Wow.
Okay, you're in now, Rana. Can you hear?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I think. Hello? Ma, you can continue.
Okay, so are we back online?
I can hear you.
Okay, you said you can
I
hear me.
can hear you. Please go ahead.
So we're talking
From my
about
end, I
factors
can
to
hear you.
consider when we're evaluating a product. The first we spoke about before we went offline was products, to understand the product itself. Then we were on the second part, which was understanding the manufacturer, where I mentioned that the manufacturer must be reputable. Remember that you are managing somebody else's money. So you should be able to make sure to a certain level that the money, the trust that has been put in your hands. Can you hear me?
It is very fit. How do I make it bigger?
Yeah, that's okay. It's bigger now.
I mean,
Okay.
let me increase.
I'm waiting.
Okay. We need to make her co-host.
What's the reason
Everybody below. Not everybody.
Okay. I'm also
I'm making imbalance for
Okay, please, I'd like to know if you are, if you can hear me. Kindly raise your electronic hands, please. Nobody has raised their hand.
okay, now you can unmute.
You can unmute yourself now. Architecture, you can unmute yourself. You are co-host.
Can you hear me? Please raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay, the audio volume is very low. Thank you, Mrs. Anifowoshi. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. So we were talking about factors to consider when we're evaluating products. We started first with understanding the product itself. Then we went on to researching the manufacturer, and where we mentioned that the manufacturer must be reputable because you are managing somebody else's funds. You want to determine what technical services the manufacturer provides and whether these services are even available locally. This now, I'll pick an instance in the services industry, with the mechanical and electrical services industry, with engineers. I'm sure we must have been familiar with some projects where you need to bring in foreign installers to be able to set up certain equipment, maybe mechanical or maybe electrical. So you are on a site and you see that the site is fitted with expatriates for installation. Now, unless it is absolutely necessary, as the head of the design team, unless those products are absolutely necessary, it's advisable we go around them and pick equal but more readily available products. And when we're talking about a product being more readily available, it goes beyond the product itself, but it also goes into the technical installation availability of that product. So you also want to consider how the manufacturer will handle failures or problems involving the product. There are some manufacturers in Nigeria who, the moment you buy the product and you leave their premises, you are on your own. If there's any problem with that product and you go back to them, irrespective of how much you have spent, they look you in the eye with a black face. And they give you the caveat, goods received or goods bought cannot be replaced. You want to avoid people like this. What you want is to be able to go back to your manufacturer and brainstorm. People who can give you after hours services on the product you're talking about. Then you also want to understand the installation process. You want to determine whether the manufacturer's directions for the installation cover the particular conditions of the project, and whether there are alternative methods that you can use to install. There are some materials and some products in the market where it's literally there are many ways to deliver. there's not one size fits all for installation. And if you use either or, you will still get the job done. Those products are normally more favored than products that are very and highly specialized, except it is completely necessary. Then you want to consider the availability of skilled workers and also the complexity of installation. Are these products that you probably need an equivalent of a PhD for you to be able to install? Are they products that can almost anybody can understand the installation process and it will still work out fine? Because when you are writing your you are adding flesh to your project manual, and you are writing your specification right, you want to put in also the style of installation or the steps of installation. Let me give an example. Something that we almost even quantity surveyors do now when they are putting in their bill of quantity. They'll say 2 applications of paints. Almost everybody knows that apart from maybe highly selective paint products, most over-the-shelf paint products will tell you to apply a minimum of 2 coats of paint to finish your application. So you want to know how it is going to be installed. It doesn't mean you are the one doing the installation, but you need to understand basically the schematics of installation to know whether it's worth the budget. You know the budget that your client has. Sometimes the product is cheap, and then you now finish the money on the installation, and they keep on coming back over and over and trying to get it right. That product has already failed. You have failed to specify a workable product. So now, the last one is costs, which I just mentioned now. If the material is cheap, it doesn't mean installation is cheap. Give example, terrazzo tiles or terrazzo flooring. Terrazzo flooring has become a bit of a dinosaur now, but there are still areas where it can be used properly. The terrazzo materials may still be available in the market, but gradually you're finding out that people who know how to make proper terrazzo floors are becoming scarcer and scarcer in the market. So, but we have this idea where when you hear terrazzo, we all just feel that means it's cheap clothes. But there are some highly finished, highly polished terrazzo floors that have lasted time because of the level of workmanship. So it could have been affordable 20 years ago because maybe terrazzo was the go-to floor finish. But nowadays, because you have laminate floors, you have tiles, you have stone, you find out that there are very few people who know how to lay terrazzo. So you now tell your client who is on a very tight budget that the cheapest is terrazzo, and he gives you a go ahead. You get the stones, and then you get an installer, and then 2 months later, you break the floor off, and you want to cover it with tiles because it wasn't well made. So the fact that the material is cheap does not mean the installation is cheap. Also, you must consider maintenance and operational cost. The initial cost should not be the only factor when you are selecting a product. There are some products that have high maintenance value. There are some products that you maintain once a year. There's no product that doesn't ever need maintenance. That's a lie. So when a manufacturer tells you that once you install a particular product, that's the end, you want to run away from those manufacturers because there's no product. Even human beings, we all need maintenance from time to time. Talking of our cars. Remember there was a slogan in the 80s where they say cars were built for Nigerian roads. That was actually a slight on the Nigerian government because it just meant that our roads were bad and the cars were built to withstand our bad roads. So there is nothing that does not need maintenance. But it's now how often the maintenance is expected to be carried out that could be in favor for or against you. Now, so you've talked about factors evaluating the product. Then you now come to organizing and preparing your information. Now, several decisions are required at the outset of the development of your specification. One of the instances is that it depends on also the type of contract. One that is very common is design and build. If you have a design and build contract, in your product manual and when you are organizing your information, you don't need to disturb yourself and spend time putting the type of bidding when already you know that you are the person who did the design and you're the person expected to carry out the construction. So the decision may also be to use simple English if the project is a small project. On the other hand, conversely, if the project is very large and if you have many different parties participating, then you may need to have highly detailed language that may be needed for certain sections where the requirements are critical. Now, one of the things that we need to know on the internet now, you'll find that you have CSI, you have DSI, you have NDS. CSI is a US standard specification style run by master format. Those things don't work in Nigeria. And let me tell you why. When you use those quote unquote ready-made specification programs, there is a collaboration between the architect, or rather the designers, and the manufacturers. So say gypsum board. Gypsum board already had a number specified in master spec. So if you type in BS 12345, everybody in that environment knows that you're talking about gypsum board. So it will mean that irrespective of who you are, if you are a manufacturer of gypsum board, there is a code you will use for your material that will be understood by all the designers and the contractors. If we don't have that level of development in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, what will happen is it will be individuals or collective of individuals that can come together and agree on the style of specification writing. So I want to throw a challenge to Anchor. As a body, as a professional body, you might decide that you want to build up a style of specification writing so that all your members use that style. The more you are using the same style, the easier it is to engage manufacturers and vendors to hop in with you and pick up the system. So when you specify A/02/123, people within Anchor know that that is 225 Sanctuary block, because that's what specification is all about. So you also want to know the method of specification. What method are you using? Let me give you an example. In the first lecture we had a few months ago, we talked about the different types of specification. If you're talking about, if your style of specification is performance-based, that means you are talking about what you want that material to achieve for your space. So let's take again flooring. Is it meant to be hard wearing? Is it meant to be used in an industrial area? Is it meant to be non-slippery? If those are the things that are pertinent to you, then when you're writing out the specification, those are the things you want to pick up. So that's when you now say, non-slip, high traffic, blah, blah, blah. The type of language you use will make us understand what you want to use that material for. Then your language, your specification language, competent specification writing requires that you use correct vocabulary and grammar. Now, I lifted it up from one of the writing references over the years past. I can't even remember the acronym they gave to it, but it's for effective communication. Your communication must be clear, it must be concise, it must be correct, and it must be complete. So by the time anybody picks up your documentation and is reading it, he or she or they must understand the language you are trying to get across to them. Now, when you're writing in specifications, remember now we're talking about organizing and preparing. We've not started the specification writing, that will be at the last seminar, the next month. But then you should now start getting mental formulas on how to put together your language. Now, I'm sure most of us have seen contract documents where they write things like the contractor shall, the contractor will, the contractor is obligated to. Now, remember that in a contract, there are only two parties. That's a client and that's a contractor. You are advising the client. Writing the contractor shall sometimes may be ambiguous because we know that it is the client technically who is telling the contractor what he should do. But there are some times when it's necessary. In sentences where the client also has a role to play, then you will want to write the contractor shall. So that way you have differentiated whose role it is. You are not meant to write or address the individual tradesmen or the subcontractors. So you are not going to write in your specification writing that Mr. Oduri Ogutoye and Waterworks are to install water filters in certain areas. Instead, what you will write, you're not going to address Mr. Oduri Ogutoye, even though you know he's the one who is going to do the installation. Rather, you just write the water subcontractors shall, because along the line, it may not be Mr. Oduri Ogutoye who is going to carry it out. So you should not be personal, you shouldn't personalize it when you are putting your specification in order. It's also important that you communicate and coordinate with other consultants. Don't assume that you are the only one. Don't assume that you are the only one who is writing all the information. You are the architect. You often case, you have the mechanical engineer, you have the electrical, you have the structural, who may need to put their own specification in order too. And sometimes they need to draw reference from your own. And the reason why these specifications must be allowed to be written by them is they will also professionally seal their documents. When you put a seal on a document, it's proprietary. I think I'm out again. Okay, can you hear me? So I'm out of my system, so I will increase my voice so it will carry. So putting a seal on your design, or your specification, or your documentation is saying that you are legally responsible for the information therein. So you may have in your documentation other sections that may also be written by other types of designers, such as your roofing designers, waterproofing designers, lighting designers. Sometimes nowadays you even have kitchen hardware, where you have companies that will come in will design the kitchen for you and do the installation. They also will have their technical information. And if they are on your project, there's no need for you to write the information on their behalf because you're not the one doing it. They are there and their presence in your project has been legalized. So you will make use of their information. Now, such situations require you to have special coordination between all involved parties to make sure that the specification is complete, compatible, and consistent, and that you want to avoid duplication. So if you have a kitchen hardware installer, there's no need for you now to start putting technical information about the kitchen because you know that his own information is going to come. So what you do is you get his own information and you add it to part of your documentation. You don't need to do the writing all again. Now, you as the design consultant, your own role is to assume responsibility for the overall coordination of the specification. So you have different parties now. So you have the architect giving his own spec, the structural engineer will give his own spec, the electrical, the mechanical, then you now have your specialists. So the kitchen hardware, like I said, the roofing person may have his whole documentation about the roof. There's no need for you to copy and paste it and make it look as if you are the one who did the research on yourself. Once you have verified it's a reputable manufacturer, once you have confirmed that he has fulfilled all righteousness in being the person to do your installation, you get his information and you add it to your manual. Then, lastly, workmanship. Now, a lot of times we mistaking workmanship with quality. Workmanship generally refers to precision and craftsmanship, the ability to carry out the work. These requirements have measurable properties and can be specified to mean compliance. Workmanship can be divided into two categories. It can either relate to the manufacturing or it can relate to the application and installation. Let me explain further. Assume that you want to have precast concrete and slabs on your walkway, and you expect the contractor to manufacture the precast slabs on your site. The contractor now may be tasked with the manufacturing of the slabs and the installation of the manufactured slabs. The workmanship for the manufacturing of the slabs is different from the workmanship of the installation of the manufactured slabs. So the first one will bring in together building materials. You bring in your aggregates, you bring in your cement, you bring in your sand, water, you mix it to a particular consistency. You mix it to a particular consistency, and then you pour it into your formwork. You leave it for a period. Maybe you want to put reinforcement in it or something or the other. That is workmanship for manufacturing. Then workmanship for installation is that you now have the precast slab is ready, but you want to place it in the areas where you have previously designed it to be. Then they may say you must make good the area, maybe you must add a blinding, or you must have something or the other, maybe a waterproofing membrane before you put it on. You see now, it means that you as the architect need to have a broad knowledge of the process build, and that's what we call components of building materials and their components. It's not enough for you to know about the material. You need to know the components of the material and the application. So you are not the person who is doing the installation. but you need to understand the process of how the installation goes. That will help you know the direction, the budget of your project is going. And that's why a lot of times in Nigeria, we tend to have cost or overrun in our projects, because sometimes we haven't grasped how problematic installation is. We just take a product in its natural phase, and then we apply it, we specify it. And then when we get to site, we find out that for you to install one porcelain tile, you probably will need a waterproofing expert, depending on where you are doing the installation. You probably will need your mechanical engineer to make sure that all the sleeves that are going under the layer of tiling has been met. You probably will need the electrical man to make sure that any wiring, any conduiting that is going through that path has been done properly, just to install tiles in a particular area. So when you find out that maybe the cost of installation for that particular product is high, it may make you decide that, look, it's not worth it. Let me look for something else in that area. Then you must think about the economic implications of the project. When workmanship is specified, care must be taken to distinguish between the product and the installation item. Each workmanship requirement is placed under proper heading in the specification section. So this will make more sense when we start the practicals. You will have part 1, which is the product. You will have part 2, which is the execution or for installation. The product data usually contains adequate information for part 1, which is the product. However, the installation and application needs special attention and can be equal or even greater in importance. So that's what I meant when I said that the fact that a material is cheap does not mean installation of that material is equally cheap. So finally for today, as a specifier, you must have an idea and set up a QA/QC system, which is quality assurance and quality control. There are a few projects in Lagos, which is where I'm based, where you go into the environment and you find out that the clients used very high quality materials, but the quality assurance or the quality control in installation did not meet up with the quality assurance or quality control with the fabrication of the material itself. So that's something like buying a very high quality paint and you give it to a plumber to paint. That's the same, it's just the same thing. If you are going to spend money on any product, you should be ready also to plan to spend money on qualified people to do the installation. And you should also invest in people who should be there on hand to confirm quality control on how that product is being installed. Sometimes not even installation, how is the product kept on site? So in your specification writing, you might want to put in certain sections that when these materials get to site, they must be put in a dry place, covered, well kept before installation. Or inside your manual, you also write after installation, they should be covered and they should be protected from, there's nothing as irritating as you finish installing a kitchen hardware, beautiful one, then you come in the next day and you see your painter standing on the kitchen top, using it as a ladder to paint the ceiling. And then you haven't protected the kitchen hardware. The painter has a ladder, but because there's a natural ladder, which is the countertop of the kitchen. He just decides to use that on top. When you're putting in your specification, you want to make sure that you address how installed items of work are secured and are safeguarded. All this comes in under quality control and quality assurance. So as a let us, as a revision for what we have talked about today, because you're going to need all this to guide you when we start the practical at the last section. We remembered that a specifier needs to have a particular qualification. He must be proficient in writing. He must be able to articulate himself in grammar. He must have written and verbal communication skills. He must be thorough, be able to methodological in research. We also remembered, or we also mentioned that there's, am I in? Okay. We also mentioned that there's what you call a project manual. I hope a lot of us practice that, where you have information about your client, information about your project. It will be a big book. It could be a file, a box file. It doesn't need to be the same file where you put in all your drawings, no. But it should be a file where you can, at any point, get information about the client, get information about the type of project, get information about the class of contract. Can you hear me? Okay, I will increase my voice again. So then we also spoke about how you start to develop specification. You have to gather information. You need to understand what you're specifying for. You must do your market research. You must have an up-to-date, concise directory or catalog. You must also understand the factors that you need to consider when you are evaluating a product. Then when you are organizing yourself to start put together, it's asking me to mute myself, but I'm not even aware I'm on board. Okay, I'm back. So when you come to organizing and preparing, bringing together, you need to know the style, the method of specifying. You need to understand the language for specifying. You need to know that you need to work with other consultants, as the case may be design and build. You may have one or two specialists that are coming in to your project. I'm not saying that specification writing is only for design and build, though, far be it. What I'm trying to say is specification writing, the style of your writing depends on the style of your contract. And then you need to understand the workmanship. So the summary is that you need to understand how the project operates. And you need to put the style of operation in concise, clear communication writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Tinuwalola Fabian. Thank you for that concise, complete, and compact delivery of your specification and writing, which happens to be the second part of this series. And we said the final and concluding part will be hopefully in August. So it's going to be a practical class, practical session. I want to appreciate you for always honoring our invite. You Oh, sorry, I'm on mute, being muted. My head is jamming here. So many technical issues. Okay, thank you so much. I believe you had the part where I thanked our guest speaker. Somehow she had me. She's here with me. So she had me. So if you didn't hear me, well, so thank God for that. Anyway, I believe at this point we have questions. And I'd want, if you have questions or concerns or contributions, as it were, that are pertinent and within the ambit of this conversation, kindly do so by the raise of your electronic hand. We have just a few minutes to run through Q&A section. And do I see any hands raised? Or do you have any question? Any questions from your phone number? Chat? No phone number. So, okay, if there are no questions, I take it that we all understand, we all grasped and have a grounded understanding of the discourse this afternoon. All right. I think I saw the Ashiwaju of architecture in Nigeria sneaking. My hawk eye, he has left. Okay, he has left. He has left. So I will leave that in a coded form. If he was here, I will have unveiled who the Ashiwaju of architecture is, but he has left. He's not here. We are all preparing for tomorrow's induction ceremony or so. Is it tomorrow or Thursday? Tomorrow, yeah. Tomorrow's induction of the new crop of architects who were successful at the just concluded APCE exams. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, if you have a suggestion or question, please just by raise up your electronic hand, you may want to do so. We have 10 minutes within the time frame of 10 minutes to do that. And anybody who wants to go? Anybody who wants to go on that? Okay. I don't see any hands. Okay, so we are saying when the time comes and you are asked to defend what you have received or been impacted with on specification writing by Archon, because it's not going to be giving you, the CPD people is not going to be giving you on a platter of gold. I hope you know that. There's going to be some form of test to ensure that you have ownership, true ownership of what you claim you have participated in. So it's very important question. Always remember the next answer is in the question you ask. The next answer is in the question you ask. So we have another 5 minutes to go. If there are questions, we may want to. Okay, Fawazat, what was it? Some of us who just joined today, is there? Well, we had a start time. So I don't know what you mean by some of us who just joined. We had a start time and we keep to time.
I think what they mean is those who were not able to take part in the first.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. For those who were not able to take part in the first series, you could kindly go to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is more of our practice manual e-library there. So you just run yourself through the webinars we have there, especially this one with regards in question, specification writing, so you can tie up and have in sync what has been discussed in this conversation so far. So the YouTube channel is there. I think, Fazat, you can provide the YouTube channel, YouTube and Anchor. I think it's Anchor Architects also. Anchor Architects, yes. Just avail yourself the opportunity of visiting the Anchor YouTube channel. There are a lot of resources there you will glean from. And also please subscribe, because we're trying to up the numbers for the YouTube channel so that we can have commercial value in that regards. Thank you very much. I think in the absence of anything, once again, what's that? What was that? Okay, in the absence of any other, okay, at what point, there's a question from Funsho Maku. Could Fawazat read that? There's a question from Funsho Maku. Fawazat. Funsho Maku. That's in the chat box.
At what point does specification documentation start? Is it at the preliminary stage or at contract documentation?
Okay, thank you, Funsho.
You may want to repeat it so that you never hear.
So, okay, let me read again. At what point does specification documentation start? Is it at preliminary design stage or at contract documentation stage? It starts from the preliminary. Remember that I mentioned that the specification writing is done by the designer. So when you start out with your design in inception, you want to have, ordinarily, you should have an idea of what you want to use to fleshing out your design. It shouldn't be at the end when you've finished, where you say, okay, oh, I finished this design now. What am I now going to use to build it? No. Let me give you an example of, let me use timber. Up until very recently, when the economic crunch started in Nigeria, timber sections in almost every part of Nigeria are 3.6 meters long. Okay, so, and if you go into the market, the lumberman will tell you that the timber is 12 feet long. So we know that to be 3.6 meters long. Now, it means that if you want to get the cross section of a room, maybe you are giving me a design, a residential building, which is the width is very wide, and you do not have columns interspacing it. And you already know you want to use timber because you decided that you want to have an exposed truss system. You don't want to use ceiling. You don't want to install a ceiling to cover the truss system. You want to have highly finished and polished timber trusses. And that's the ambience you want to create in your room. Now, because you know the limitation of your timber that is gotten in the market is 3.6 meters. Now I know that it is not up to 3.6 meters. If you go to the market now, it's about 3 meters, and that's if you are lucky. That's where Nigeria is taking us, but it is well with us. Are you aware that in Sapele, the timber can be up to 5.4 meters long? So imagine if you have a client whose living room is, say, 10 meters wide, and he doesn't want to have a column in the meeting room, and he wants to have the ambience of having his truss system opened and no ceiling. Already, you should know from the design stage that you are going to travel to Sapeleo to buy longer length of timber to be able to achieve that design, that ambience, that specification. So you are going to write it, jot it down somewhere, okay? While it's not yet out, it's not yet in full print, you're already jotting it down in a little book you have, that this is because you want to achieve this particular architectural feat, you may have to use timber of so sections to be able to get it. That already tells you that in your specification writing during your construction documentation, you are going to look for an installer who knows how to get this timber from, say, Sapele. You're already going to know that even though the timber is relatively cheap in Sapele, you are going to pay much more in transporting because you are bringing it from Sapele to where you are. So you are going to start from the design stage, but you're going to fleshing it up until it becomes a legal document. In your preliminary design stage, it's not yet a legal documentation. It becomes a legal documentation when it comes to be part of your contract documentation for your contractor to be able to bid. So I hope that has answered your question. So it's not that you just wake up one morning, sit out in front of your laptop, put your fingers on ASDF semicolon LKJ and say, now I'm ready to type my specification writing. It starts by jotting your notes in a notebook. And then that notebook, you're going to be adding your concepts, your thoughts. Well, okay, you want timber that is longer than normal. Where are you going to get it from? Remember, you're going to research. Then you start researching. So it grows on you until it comes and terminates as a legal document. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, there's another question. Are there ongoing plans to have a well-documented catalog of building materials or products, together with methods of installation being overseen by outcome or associate bodies as a guide for building specifications in Nigeria?
That's a jam question, but I can give you the answer. It is not the job of the regulator to put together documentation for specifications. I mentioned it, I threw a challenge to Anchor in the body of my delivery, that it is something that Anchor may decide to do on its own and say, look, for our members, we're going to decide to put together a document, a specification document that anybody who is a member of Anchor already has as a document that he can use for specification writing. So we've thrown the challenge to Anchor. While you can start in your office, my office has, you could have group of architects who decide that they want to do their own. And don't think that there's one big black book bound with hardcover, very insured. It could be very simple English. It doesn't have to be legalistic English. It depends on the type of projects that you do over time. So you are collecting this information, you are documenting it, and you are updating it regularly. So Anchor, one of your members has just thrown you a challenge. I hope that answers the question.
Any other question? Okay.
Okay. Permission to fall out in the absence of any other question.
Can you mute your
All right. Thank you so much, Architect Siwalola Fadebi. On behalf of Anchor, I'll say challenge accepted, well noted, accepted. It's already in the pipeline. And at this point, I would want to implore participants and the community of architects within Nigeria that it is time for us to put together our collective resources in terms of intellectual property to begin to develop a body of what you call documents, contract documents, just the topic we just delved into today, specification writing. We need to come together and begin to volunteer. It's not, look, building architecture in Nigeria is not a solo effort. A tree will not make an effort, make a forest. Anchor is not some illusion somewhere. It's a collection of people who have come together, who have agreed that, look, we're going to do certain things in a certain way based on specific needs and requirements we see in our environment, in our society, in our community, in our nation. And we're saying that Anchor is a platform for us to give expression to this collective initiative we want to drive. And so I'm on behalf of the Executive Council of Association of Nigerian Chartered Architects and the Board of Trustees, inviting all of you who are skilled in this area to begin to connect with us in Anchor, and let us see how we can sit together and put together this body of manuals, because we need to have manuals, standard documented manuals that will provide the requisite design content and requirements for practice in Nigeria as it's obtainable in Nigeria. So please, if you fall within that category, which all of us should, please, we have lent you our hearts as Anchor. Therefore, we are saying, lend us your hand. It's a give and take equation. So please, if any of you belong to this cadre or group, please kindly signify. I can see Architect Helen. Okay, Architect Helen, can you help us unmute her? Ask to unmute. Okay. All right, Architect Helen, you have the floor. Helen Coker.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I saw your hands raised. I
heard you mentioned my name. That was why I raised up my hand. I didn't raise up my hand to ask a question.
Oh, really? I saw your hands raised. That's why I called you.
I heard you mention my name, then I raised my hand.
Okay, now that I've mentioned your name, that you heard me mention your name, Architect Helen, I am co-opting you into that community. Reach out to us, please, via, can you send the info at anchor-ng.org. Reach out to us so we can begin to put together a team to structure and build these manuals. We are looking at practice manuals. I think it's something we need to take ownership of architecture in Nigeria. Nobody is going to do it for us. Nobody is going to do it for us. It's going to be a teamwork. It's going to be a collective effort. It's going to be a collaborative effort, and it's going to be on this altar, or is going to be on a sacrificial altar. We're going to give all that we have to this to ensure architecture works. Architecture is accurately positioned where it ought to be. We need to walk the talk. We've been talking so much. There has been so many rantings here and there. I don't belong to that rant group. No, I belong to the talk group. Let's walk the talk. So let's all collectively take ownership. Yeah, go ahead. Please,
I was distracted at a point. Can you educate me on what you want me to do at the time, so I'll have a proper knowledge of what?
Yeah, that's what we're saying, that you volunteer as part of the team that will be putting together practice manual documents. For example, specification writing that is specifically built tailored to Anchor, that is built on the platform of Anchor. So we are saying, let us lend our hands in that direction. Am I clear now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, but we need to take ownership. Anchor has done its own part. Now it's rest is now for the individual architects to now join that collective to drive this initiative and this vision to El Dorado. That's what we're saying. Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Thank you. You can mute yourself now. You can go on ahead and mute yourself. Thank you very much. So in the absence of any other thing, thank you all for being part of this very insightful and instructive webinar. It's our pleasure to always have you on board. And at this junction, I want to say on behalf of my team here, Omolade Adeomi, Fawazat Bajumo, they've been very, very hands-on here, very IT savvy in addressing our technical challenges here. Like we always say, a tree will never make a forest. Guess what? These two duo are students. So what are those of us in practice? What are we doing? Where are we? You know, they are already taking ownership of their own future. They are already taking ownership of the future. So where are we? Don't let us be that same generation that failed the younger people. Please, let us come on board. Let us come on board. All come on board to join hands to what is Anchor is driving for architecture in Nigeria. Thank you very much. Once again, she's leaving right now, architect Tiwalola Fadeibi. Thank you so much. God bless you. I hope you are feeling okay now. You're all right. You're giving me thumbs up. God, she's doing like this. Yes, that's well, I don't know what that is. That's Awu. Back in the days, it used to be Awu. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Who is this? Biliamiu. You can't go architect. Can you help me unmute? Unmute Biliamiu Lawal. I want to believe it's one of our colleagues from up north. I would like to hear Biliamiu Lawal. Lawal, you have the floor. Can you unmute him, please? Oh, yeah, Biliamiu. Unmute. Unmute. I see Architect Obimba wrote something. That is what we are saying now. Architect Obimba, we are saying the same thing. Our own native specification manual document. That is what we are saying. And Architect Obimba, I'm co-opting you to that committee too. You are one of the best students in your set in APCE. So just know you are one of, you and Architect Helen, I have co-opted you. You are not going anywhere. Biliamiu, we are waiting for you. You raised your hand. Okay. You've been unmuted, but you're not talking. Biliamiu. That's Architect Obimba. I've addressed that. I've co-opted him as part of, that's one of our facilitators for the tutorial classes. Okay, thank you. In the absence of any other business, I want to thank you all. Someone, now we won't go here. Okay, what's the question?
It's not a question. It's a disease.
A power pack lecture, very detailed, yes. A good suggestion to have our own domesticated specification writing. That's what we're saying. I am available to serve, sir. Thank you very much, Architect Izuchukwu Obimba. Eze Ndigbo one. Thank you. All right, from Obasanjo Akitewe, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, Architect Tiwa. You are so much loved there. We enjoyed your session. Thank you. And on behalf of Association of Nigerian Chartered Architects, we want to thank you. And we say we'll see you at the next webinar at a date to be communicated. So stay tuned on all Anchor platforms and social media outlets. I believe the link for our social media outlets have been posted. I will just leave the system running for the next 7 minutes so you can copy all requisite links to Anchor so you stay connected, you stay tuned, you stay plugged in at all time. And don't touch the dial, log it in. Thank you very much. My name is Bodri Ogutoye, National PRO for Association of Nigeria Chartered Architects, signing out at this point. Thank you very much. God bless you. See you next time. Architect Tiwa is leaving the broadcast room. Thank you, Mommy. Our mommy is leaving. See you in Abuja tomorrow. All right. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I'll leave you with this music playing. There we go. Okay, is it playing? Share now.